What's going on, Bucs fans? Back here for another edition of the Pirate Parlay podcast. I'm JC Allen, your host. We're on the Sick Podcast now. We've got a great show for you today. We're going to be diving into a little bit more mock draft stuff. We're going to be diving into a little bit more draft prospects. Who could be there? We got a special guest coming on. Can't wait to have him on. Just put out his big board, 500 prospects deep with comparisons. Got a questionable one on there that I want to ask about for sure. One with your Baker Mayfield. So we'll get into that, all that and more on the other side after the break.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. Pirate Parlay.
Battle intercepted, picked off in the end zone. Bucs are going to beat the Chiefs. We're the champions of the world.
The sickest Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. It's going to be sick.
Back here on the other side again. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Pirate Parlay Podcast here in the Sick Podcast Network. I'm your host, JC Allen. Like, subscribe, turn notifications. We got tons of draft content coming your way. We got pods Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, leading right up into the draft. Super excited about that. So turn on notifications so you guys can get alerted whenever we go live. Everyone listen to podcast form after. Appreciate you guys. Come on over, catch us live sometime. With that being said, we got an action-packed show for you two. We'll jump into it right now. Our guest is Thor Nystrom from Fantasy Life. He puts out some great work over there, and every year pumps out his Thor 500, which is his 500 player big board with player comparisons. Man, I don't know how you do that. That's crazy. But welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Yeah, appreciate you having me.
So let's kind of talk a little just generic draft. What are your thoughts on this draft this year? Because it feels like there aren't many blue chip guys. It feels like there's like maybe a handful, 10 to 15 tops. And then you can get a lot of good players, a lot of potential starters for you that are going to be, impact players and role player guys up until like late third round, fourth round. It seems like that chunk is really similar across the board. What are your thoughts on this year's draft?
Yeah, like overall, I in terms of an average class, I put it either C- or D+. Definitely slightly below average, and part of that's what you're talking about. You have less the blue chip guys, right? And then the quarterback class being weighed down, position of the most value. But yeah, I mean that there are there's strengths and weaknesses to every class, and there's ebbs and flows, and it's a cyclical thing. And while the quarterback position down, receiver position down. This class, running back is way up. Interior defensive line is up. Right. So, you have some of that stuff. But, yeah, like overall, from a bird's eye view, I think that's fair to say is like the very top of the board. You have the less like guys like, that guy could be a Hall of Famer. But, yeah, like in day two, there's going to be a procession of immediate starters going there, day one starters. So, yeah, I do think that there's some depth there. And that's explainable because this is one of the last COVID seasons. Where right. the guys are getting ejected. And so you have an elevated number, just the draft eligible declarees. So yeah, it's definitely deeper.
Yeah, definitely. You've seen a lot of 5-year, 6-year seniors, guys who had those 25-year players, guys who had that year wiped out in injuries. And now they're, finally coming out of the draft. And it feels like you get into day two, you're looking at, again, immediate starters, but it's a lot of high floor, low ceiling type of players. Like, what you're getting. You're getting a solid starter. He's never going to be a Pro Bowler, and that's not a bad thing because every team needs those guys on their roster. But they're always replaceable if the right person, the free agency and the draft comes along. And I think that's where the value is. I think the Bears are set up in a great position in this draft. You got the top 10 pick. You got 2 picks early in the second round and then an early third round pick. Like, they're going to get 4 quality starters and 1 potentially the Hall of Fame, All-Pro, Pro Bowl type player.
Yeah, we'll see what they do at 10. The interesting thing with their situation is, they did such a good job with the interior offensive line this offseason. Obviously, a problematic area, and you've solved that now. The thing that's left there is the left tackle, right? Like, and unfortunately for them in this class, like I can't project Will Campbell as even a tackle, much less a left tackle. Like, I think he's an interior player at the next level. And then Banks might be the only one that you could feel comfortable about, but then some people have issues with his game, but he was at least a 3-year starter in the SC at Texas. Yeah, and he has the wingspan, right? Like, and yeah, maybe you don't like his, his technique as much as Campbell. Okay, we have data that would suggest that Banks can do it, and we have no data that suggests that Campbell could. Whole point being, and then Mbo, of course, was the 3-year starter at right tackle. We don't even know what he would look like at left tackle. So whole point being, for Chicago's situation, I'm curious how they do that. Like, are they cool going into next year with Braxton Jones, or do they see Banks a little bit different, or do they want to test me on my assertion? And Will Campbell probably ain't going to get down there either way, but or kick Mbo over to left tackle. So I'll be curious about that. But yeah, like in general, yes, I think they're going to hit running back early. I think that's going to be one of them. Will it be a 10? Maybe not, but that one of those round 2 picks, I think, will be going to the running back position. And yeah, you're going to have immediate starters there coming in early for Chicago.
Yeah, it'd be great. Actually, in my second mock I had them trade back with Chicago 19, pick up those 2 second-round picks, and like I ended up coming away with, like, in the 3rd round with Schwechlinger, Xavier Watts, and Siobhan Ravel. Like, that's a haul. If you're the Bucs, like, boom, like, needs are filled. Spend your 3rd round on an edge rusher, wide receiver, whatever you want. You're good. So it's I think they're in a good spot. But as for the Bucs, 19's coming up. There are some question marks. There's really been 3 consensus guys continuously mocked and talked about to them. They're Jihad Campbell, Donovan Ezrau, and Malachi Starks. I would think that they'd be high on Jihad Campbell, given their need there, given his ability to play. I think he's probably one of those blue chip players in this draft. Yeah, I think Malachi Starks is as well. But both of those guys are devalued positions, and we'll get into that, especially with Malachi Starks. The knee, the shoulder, the injuries, those are things that I don't know enough about, how severe they are. We haven't heard a lot about it. We just know potentially training camp, potentially in the season. But there's no denying the player he is. What have you heard about Jihad Campbell's health? Do you think he could be there at 19? Do you think he slides past that because of these injuries? What are you hearing? What are your thoughts on him overall?
Yeah, I mean, that's a discussion point with teams. It's a rumor of, like, if enough medical teams agree on that have the position and need there, that would lead to what in the moment would be considered a shocking fall. So, like, if because every year in the draft we get a couple shocking falls, but like if you start to see that, and all of a sudden we're at the 25th pick and Campbell hasn't been picked yet, it's not the consensus of NFL evaluators. It would be the consensus of NFL medical teams, right? But yeah, we'll see. In terms of his talent ability, my board top 25, or item 16, yeah, overall. So big fan of his game, and to the point of Tampa's needs. You have an obvious need at off-ball linebacker, right? Which is the thing that he was a really good SEC starter at the last 2 years, but did the situational edge rushing thing. And that's what he was coming into college. That's what, he was a 5-star recruit as 3-4 outside rush linebacker dude. And then, when he was able to get on the field, Alabama was stacked at edge rusher. Right. They always kind of are. And so Campbell's path to the starting lineup 2023 was the off ball, but you'd still bring him down, in certain situations. But I think the cool thing about him, the reason I like his game so much, he's really good at the off ball linebacker stuff. Like, it's not an edge rusher playing off ball linebacker. For instance, he's very good in coverage. Yeah. Like, he's very good in the zone. He has a very good understanding of it. Like, you see with a lot of, you watch all the cut-ups and you see one after the other. You see the college linebackers in zone coverage. And a lot of times they sort of stick to a spot. One cool thing where it's like, oh, that he's advancing, is when he'll carry the guy to the outer limits of the zone, but then come back for someone coming underneath it, pass him off to the guy behind him. A lot of college linebackers do not do that. And Campbell does. So he's got some cool instincts there. He makes plays on the ball, that sort of stuff. And then the coming forward stuff speaks for itself, right? Yeah. He's really good in run defense. And then you get the attacking thing when you send him off the edge. He didn't have as many snaps there as Walker did, in college, just speaking to one other SEC sort of the hybrid guy. I will tell you though, and I don't know how much of this is out there, but pre-draft process, Campbell was at Exos. That's where he was training. He trained as an edge rusher the entire time.
Oh, wow.
The entire time. Yeah. So it's, I think Campbell, he understands the value of the edge rusher position at the next level. And of course, having played off ball the last couple of years, predominantly, in the base defense, he, was very clearly trying to work on the skills at edge. He knows that he will be deployed at least part-time there at the next level, situationally rushing the passer. So he's a guy where if you're Tampa Bay, then, one of the top guys that you could say this about, you could kill two birds with one stone. Tampa Bay, as you know, it's the most obvious thing in the world. They badly need to improve their pass rush. You can bet that their first pick will be some sort of reflection of that. Yeah. And then you have the needed off-ball linebacker too. So I think Campbell, this goes back to the Bucs medical team. How do they feel about it after they poked in there? We didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. We also weren't allowed into that room during his medical evaluation. So we don't know. But if they're comfortable with it, I'd be comfortable. Absolutely. Especially in Tampa Bay, their situation. And then also the draft slot they're picking in, that'd be a good pick.
Yeah, I think so too. It all checks out of the medicals. We'll see. I haven't heard promising things, but I'm still waiting for a full picture. We'll see if that affects them. If it's something that they would feel strong enough to pass on him, at least in the first round, and see what happens then. But I mean, he's 2 years at the position too. He's still learning off ball as well, so there's still room for growth in the spots that he does lack. Sometimes just kind of reactionary skills and. I like him a lot. Another guy I like a lot who production is off the charts. He was just a monster in the backfield. He lived there. I think between his tackle for losses and his sacks, it was up towards 30. You count his pressures that he was able to get. And now we're just talking goofy numbers. He's undersized, kind of in the Shaq Barrett mold, but with much longer arms, and that length helps him set the edge a little bit. Smooth dropping back in coverage when he has to. It's Donovan Ezrau, the edge rusher from BC. Talk to me about him. What about his game translated to the next level, even though he's undersized? Because that's the big question, right? That's the big question.
For sure. Yeah, I like that he filled out his frame. Certainly he sawed off and he ain't getting any taller. No. But I like that he's gotten to around that 250. And the thing, we talk about, the sawed off frame is usually the thing that you hear about in the undersized stuff. But he has a big quirk of his frame that it very much plays in his favor in the field that rarely gets talked about. He has ridiculously long arms, especially for his height. Right, like it's like outlier difference there. He has one of the longest wingspans, in the edge class. Certainly for guys beneath 6'3", and because of that, you have a really solid athlete there, but you also have a guy that can keep the distance, and he's crazy crafty. Right, so he always has space to maneuver because you can keep the distance with the offensive lineman. You're the one who's dictating the dance. You get hands on him first. You got a very good first step as well, and then after that. Yeah, maybe he's not the physical package like an Abdul Carter or whatever, so he can't win the exact same way. But it's sort of like a jukebox going through moves. You shut down one, great. We're going to go to the next one. Going to go to the next one. And again, he has the space to maneuver and the distance to ensure that he's not wiped out, not erased from the rep right away. Right, so it's like he stays on you. He'll get by you eventually. Sometimes it's quick, but sometimes it's toggle to the third, fourth move. But he'll keep going, right? Like until the whistle blows. Plays very, very hard. Like I said, very crafty and crafty within sort of not only the limitations, but also the strengths of his athletic profile. It's like sort of like a holistic game that's sort of a nod back to that, right? Like, again, like he didn't have the trump card type athletic trait. So to win every interaction that he had in college, you had to learn some of these different things, some of these different skills. I just love his skills, the way he plays the game. He got way better on run defense there at the end. Yep. So it's a guy that plays assignment football there too. I just really like his game. Like I got him ranked super high. I got him ranked edge 3. And like I thought he would be coming into the process, like before I got into his cutups, I for sure thought it was gonna be like edge 6 for me. But like the more I watch him, it's like, man, he's got an answer for everything. You know, coming off the bus, the other guys are gonna look better than him, but he's a better player than some of them other edge guys.
Yeah, and he's gonna work his ass off too.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. Like he's gonna pick up the system quickly, he's gonna find a role quickly, and learning behind Hassan Reddick too, who's a smaller edge rusher. That's
perfect.
Getting to pick his brain is going to be valuable as well. And I'm sure if Shaq's not playing in the league or something, he'll be around or whatnot, or Yaya could give him his number and pick his brain as well. So I think he'd be a great selection there. I had him in my original, like my mock off season. He was the pick I had in the first round. I'm debating on him and another player for my final mock. It's more my predictive one. The other ones are just like get to know the prospects. But this one's more predictive towards the end here. But the guy I'm torn with, especially with Jihad's medical, is a guy who I think you have him a little bit lower, still safety number 1, but a guy who I think is one of the blue chip prospects in this draft. The question is, has the league learned its lesson yet? Because they got juked out with Antoine Winfield Jr. and then Kyle Williams
for sure. Yeah.
Then Kyle Hamilton, they wised up on him. Then they're like, Brian Branch, no, that's a second round guy. Then they said Cooper DeJean, the second round guy. Is this the year that teams start to wise up and say, hey, these hybrid nickel safety rover players are worth a lot more than what we're valuing them right now?
You'd like to think so. It's got to happen eventually. Yeah, I mean, Malachi Starks, he's an all-day first rounder, and we were talking like right before we got on the record, but what's it called? The in-game athleticism thing where they do the IGA score, Corey Yates. They put out Starks' in-game athleticism, which is the metric from the chips they put on the pads. And I've talked to Corey about how they do that, like how they come up with the percentile. They're adding together a bunch of different metrics. It's like max speed, max deceleration, max acceleration, explosion from standstill. It's like different stuff but there's a bunch of it. It's not just your speed on the chips.
Linear speed like it is at the 40, right?
Exactly. Malachi Starks on the field, 91st percentile athlete with the in-game athleticism, with the measurables like from Raz, pre-draft testing thing was he 52nd?
Something like that. Yeah.
So
stark difference.
Yeah. 50s, pun intended.
Right. I didn't even know it wasn't. It wasn't.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. Oh, cool.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a total difference. And like the point I was trying to make on Twitter is like, because people will be, some people are like, oh, the combine doesn't matter. Those pre-draft, don't matter. And then some people are like the opposite way. I think it's case specific of the times when you throw out the pre-draft testing. Yeah. Like if what you saw when you were watching, if that is identical to what the in-game athleticism score is, that is the scenario where you toss out the pre-draft testing. Doesn't matter. I don't care. Starks could have been a 30th percentile. Between the in-game athleticism and what my lion eyes told me, that's what trumps the pre-draft testing.
You would think.
Yeah,
Has it though?
It's not that way for everybody. Like in my sheets, Raz is pretty prominent in there, and then the tests after that and stuff like that. But more, NFL teams are like this too, and some of them to an obnoxious degree. The Rams, they literally do not care about pre-draft testing. It's all the in-game athleticism stuff, and then of course they're
pre-draft visits.
Yeah, although someone did a Mythbusters, because I guess what they do, there's like one random dude in their building and they send him on foot, like to every prospect's and that's how they do it. So you can also skirt the rule because he can go and see everybody. Like the rule is it's something like if it's within 30 miles of where they played college, it's like something like that. Then you can visit them there, right? And it doesn't count as anything. So that's how the Rams do it. And yeah, it's an interesting philosophy because they said that Sneeds, he doesn't like when people know, if you know the guys that are being brought for every team, it gets reported, right? That who the top 30 visits are, and he doesn't want people to know. So he has this this guy's like he's like Kaiser Soze or something. He's just out there He's like this mysterious guy, but like he visits all the Rams prospects that they're interested in secretly.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of interesting. But the Rams, obnoxious with the in-game athleticism. But point I was going to make is like to not consider it at all is a mistake. Right. Like, and so in my evaluations, more and more, I'm baking that in as well. And again, like when it comes down to discrepancies between the two, tiebreaker is always, what did you see? Right. And that's the one that I'll pick. So yeah, sometimes with the testing, I will toss it case specific.
Well, that's why I say too, like, especially with like rookies, like everyone's got to like manage their expectations a lot more. These guys are not training for football right now. None of them have been training for football. They're training to ace these tests. They're going to these exos. They're going to all these places. They might incorporate some things into the workout position specific, but for the most part, they're training. They want to get their 40s right. They want to get their benches right. They want to get their short shuttles, their verts, their all that stuff. Like year 2, when they're in the strength and conditioning program and specifically working on plans that they have, that's when I think is a real test for a lot of these guys. And so like, the combine, yes, it's nice to know who's fast, but okay, was he fast? Because there's a bunch of wide receivers in here who ran 4.3 something, 4.4s, and you're like, they don't play that fast on tape. Like that's not how they play.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting, the whole dynamic of testing. But back to Starks, I think he fits what the Bucs want in a lot of ways. Especially with Tyke Smith, them wanting to have him play safety more. You can pretty much plug and play either one of those guys there. And to an even bigger extent, Antoine Winfield. If you had Starks, Tyke Smith, and Antoine Winfield Jr., I'm pretty confident you can rotate those guys wherever the heck you want on the field, and they're all going to be able to make plays and keep plays from happening. What's your thoughts on his fit with the Bucs? And is 19 where he should go, or do you think earlier or later? What are your thoughts? And anyone who's got questions for Thor, put them in the comments, and we'll get to them after this.
I think I got him 24th
25th.
or 25th. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I really like the football player.
Brian Branch. So you compared him to
Brian Branch. Yeah. Right in that bucket. But when you ticked off, there's other guys, at least situationally, Brian Branch is just, the similarities are kind of eerie, but like some of those other examples that you ticked off. Yeah. This is the guy where he always slides for no reason. And it's always the draft day steal. I'm still pissed off the Vikings didn't take Winfield at the end of the first round that year. I was furious in the moment, right? Because I'd watch him with the Gophers, right? So, and like Antoine Winfield, his last season with the Gophers, he changed the outcome of at least 2 games. It might have been 3, like with a play where the outcome of the game flipped just because of that. And like, it was like, what? Come on, guys. But with Starks, it's, again, very, very similar to the Brian Branch thing. Very good in pass defense. He sees things before they happen. So he's always at the catch point. He has really good ball skills. So he's really good in coverage. And then the run defense thing, he doesn't miss any tackles and he triggers just as fast with that. Right. And he's going to run the alley. He's fearless with that. So it's a guy you can deploy everywhere. You can move him all over the place. And then multi-faceted skill set within plays. And there's a fluidity with his thinking too. Like when the bullets are flying, like you see guys, rigidity with their athletic profile, but also sort of rigid thinkers. Yeah, right. He's very much like a like water Bruce Lee, like like in the moment the play concept changes, the offense maybe, however, the quarterback's head snaps another way, the runner goes against the grain, whatever. He's always a step ahead of it. He sees the field really, really well. And it's just like a reactive athleticism, right? Where it's like the second it changes, he's changed to combat it. So it's just a really, really skilled player. And don't look at his RAS. Look at his in-game athleticism, 91st percentile.
Right. There's been a few guys the Bucs have met with recently who are getting some round 1 buzz. They're all at cornerback. I like Jahdae Barron a lot. I don't know if he's going to be there. I don't know if they're interested in him, but guys that they brought in has been Siobhan Revelle, Maxwell Hairston, and Trey Amos. Just quickly on all 3 of those guys, who do you like the best for the Bucs fit, and where do you see these guys going?
Well, I really like Revelle, especially at the price point that he's going to be at. It's another, we don't know the medical thing, right? Like what did they see with his knee towards ACL in practice in September? But just far as what you get on the field, I love his game. There's a reason he gets the comps to Tariq Woolen. It's just this super duper big, super long levered, and then explosive outside boundary corner that will get, in your chest right off the snap. And then he's got all kinds of recovery speed, etc. So really like his game. Jahdae Barron reminds me a ton of Devin Witherspoon from a couple of classes ago. It's a guy that needs to be in the heavy zone coverage system, but with that, he's awesome. When he can play forward and he has his eyes on the quarterback, it's almost like a safety, and that actually makes sense because he was a nickel defender the year before. He's played a lot of deep safety. It's a guy that can move all over the field, and was really interesting last year because they had done that with Barron the previous couple of years, but then last year they want to move him to boundary corner. And make an impact there. They kept moving them all over the place, right? Like they use them like Texas used them like a queen on a chessboard, right? And they use them as like we're gonna erase a matchup for the offense before the play starts. That's how they use Jahdae Barron, and really like him for again, it's got to be a heavily leaning zone. Every NFL team runs a bunch of zone coverage at this point, but it's got to be one of the ones that slants as far as we get there. Because that's where he's going to play up, but then also a creative defensive coordinator, right, that can make use of all the skills. I mean, this is a guy that is in dime. He'll be an extra box linebacker for you. Like he's nice.
Vikings would be a good fit.
Would be a great fit. Great fit, both in terms of the way they like to run their coverage, but also Flores is the mad scientist. And Barron, again, the names you brought up before of those movable safeties and whatnot, like the audience, those guys, we've seen them guys, but like to have that with a guy that is capable of being a destructive boundary cornerback, like it's a very rare thing, and I don't think people are discussing that enough. As a guy that can neutralize matchups again before the snap. So big fan of his game. Big fan of Jahdae Barron.
There's some who feel that Starks could do the same thing. He could play a little bit outside too. Ollie Connolly was talking with John Ledyard on their podcast about Jahdae Barron, and he said no one's recording this stat to my knowledge, but it needs to be. Passes looked off, and just because Jahdae Barron forces so many of those. Like the quarterback will just see, like he's like not even doing it. And it goes back to what you said. Who am I going to take away before the play even starts? And that's what Jahdae Barron did a lot and everywhere, outside, inside, took things away over the top when he was playing deep safety. Like he's a game changer. And I don't think he'll be there. He shouldn't be there. It'll be insane if he gets out of the top 15, in my opinion, but, good player for sure.
Very, very good player. And, he's not quite as good with his back to the ball as some of those other guys. And so, a lot of times we think like Revis Island or like, some of these guys like, he's going to erase one side of the field. That's not Jahdae Barron, but people don't they lose the context with it. Cause again, he erases other matchups prior to the snap. It's not the same thing as 40 yards, 35 yards down the field, and with him trailing his back to the quarterback, not that one, but it's you are affecting the way that the offense is playing by erasing matchups there. Again, a zone player plays better coming forward, but he's just so damn smart, so damn skilled, so damn effective, and we've seen him star at numerous different positions at this point. It's like what can't this kid do? Right. I mean, he's been lined up everywhere, and everywhere you squeeze an incredible amount of value out of him. And what they figured out at the end is, again, move him around based on what the offense is trying to do. Nope. Sorry. Nope. That's how you use Jahdae Barron.
Yeah. And you can use Malachi Starks in a similar way, especially if you think he can play outside. And that's why I think I like those two players. And again, they're just not valued for whatever reason. I had Jahdae Barron. I had Malachi Starks in my first mock. Jahdae Barron was in my last mock. Speaking of mocks, I'll bring my mock up because there's another player I want to talk to that the Bucs brought in for a 30. Talk to you about that the Bucs brought in for a 30 visit this past week, and he had steam and then he lost it, and then now it feels like he's gaining steam again as being someone who could be a potential first round pick, maybe towards the end of the draft there. But that's Darius Alexander out of Toledo. When I watch him play, I see a guy who just needs to find some consistency. All the tools are there. Everything flashes. His get off, I think, is insane when it's actually timed. He can be one of the last people off the line, but you can put him all over the place really on that defensive line. And Jason Light has talked about waves, having those type of players who comes in waves on that front seven and defensive tackle. You saw what he mentioned. You saw what happened this year with the Eagles. He brought it up with the Lightning coach for the Tampa Bay Lightning, waves coming in and just having guys be fresh throughout the game. I think Darius Alexander, if you get him to play 30 snaps his rookie year, rotating in with Vita Vea, Kalijah Cansey, and Logan Hall, I think he can be a tremendous inside pass rusher, someone who can, be a solid run defender for you too.
For sure. Yeah, he has a fun game. And in the MAC, he was just utterly destructive. The MAC it's come down a little bit in recent years, and Alexander was a man amongst boys. He's a powerhouse, and you're talking about that coming off the line, and then he's got the super long arms. So it's he's going to touch you first and he's going to rock you back. That's what his game is, right? Yeah, there's technical things that we can work on there. Sometimes the game is led predominantly through that power thing, where in the NFL, it's when a kid who throws 100 miles an hour and he's in high school or college, when he goes to rookie ball and low A ball, now you have to start throwing more pitches. You can't strike everyone out with velocity, and even just to get people off of the heat, right? Just show them that you can throw a changeup, right? And even a shitty breaking ball, just to keep them off the heat, whatever. We got to get a little more nuance there because he has the heat. Right. And so, the other stuff, to not only show the element of it, but also because you always have the offensive linemen sitting back on their heels because they're waiting for it. Right. They're waiting for that heat. They know what his game is. I think you can get an even better player in the NFL if you can work on some of that stuff. But I really like his trump card of the game, that combination of the power and then the long arms, because he gets to dictate the dance and he's stronger than you. Yeah, it just is what it is. We refine it. We get more nuance to the game. Yeah, that's where it could be oh man, this guy was crazy underdrafted. But I also think that there's a floor embedded there just from what we have right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's things. I mean, I wrote about him. Explosive first step, uses to get into blockers quickly, generates excellent power from his lower body, has a strong punch to knock blockers back, has great length and a detailed rush plan with an array of moves, including a nasty club. Holds up well against double teams. Despite that, Alexander could struggle maintaining pad level, which sees him lose leverage. Still developing his instincts for the position. He can be a little bit late off the ball and get caught up in blocks instead of disengage. He likes to fight blocks sometimes instead of disengaging and finding the ball carrier. He'll be 25. But the versatility, I think he would fit right in. He had a formal visit. He had a 30 visit. I really like his game.
Yeah, and I like the way that everything you said, I agree with, and I like the way you presented that too, because it's not that he doesn't have moves or he doesn't know how to, but it's that he's learned, especially in the MAC. I mean, people got to keep in mind some of the offensive linemen he was going against. He could literally throw the heat every game, and he's getting into the backfield immediately, right? Because they couldn't. It's a firefight, right? And you were outgunned. Right. That's what it was. But leaning into that too much. That's the thing where I think coaching is really going to help him. And there's going to be a natural understanding of I can't beat everyone with the power thing. So sometimes that's why it was a little hard to come off. But I like how you were mentioning that he does have those moves. And with the length that he has, he's always going to have the space to work through those, right? If someone shuts down the power, the bull rush thing, seamlessly going to number 2 and having the distance to work with there to try to disengage. That's sort of the next step in his evolution. But I really like sort of the starter kit that we have there to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he'd be a great get for them. And this was in a trade back with the Rams. The Rams, they say F them picks. They moved up to 19, gave up their second, third, and their 4th round pick. So with the Bucs second pick, I had him taking Jaylen Noel, little speedy slot receiver out of Iowa State. He's had a formal visit. He's had a 30 visit. He's got really good character. What are your thoughts on Noel? Do you think the second's too rich for him? Is he a third round guy? I thought he was a third round guy, but then there's been a lot of buzz. I don't know if he's crept into the back half of the second. Where's he going to go? What are your thoughts on him?
For me, as far as just like value, for me, he's a second rounder, right? Like a second rounder on my board. We'll see because sometimes the NFL can be punitive with the slot only guys, and that's you're going to nitpick him. That's what it is. He's a slot guy, sure, okay, that's a fact, but that's a starting position in the NFL, and he's going to be a starter for a decade. He's going to be a very, very, very good starting slot, and immediately. Right. I mean, this is a guy we've seen handle heavy volume at Iowa State the last couple of years, but has also shown this is the cool thing about his game where it goes a little bit above sort of your average, slot guy like this. He wins at all three levels. He's a very good deep ball guy, right? Especially for his frame. And then, knowing he's a slot guy, whatever, that's a value add, right? Because the defense, you have to be concerned about the slot guy taking the top off too. You're going to see a lot of double high safeties, whatever team he's with. And what does that do? It gives him more intermediate spacing to work with when he does that stuff, right? And you can't stay with him. He licked everyone in the one-on-ones at the Senior Bowl. You're not staying with him, right? So, even having the threat of that, it opens up another thing for his game, but very reliable. I just really like. We've seen him beat everyone, he faced in college. Like he's proven the concept. So, yeah, I think he should be a second rounder. There's a shot with the NFL that he's third because it's the NFL. Like a couple of years ago, Khalil Shakir had an awesome career at Boise State. He goes and licks everyone at the Senior Bowl. And then, was it the fifth round? It was a joke.
Right. And he just got paid, 4 years, $84 million, something like that?
Yeah, and it's like Khalil Shakir now, it's the same dude he was then. Right. It's like, it's like that's a good football player. And Noel kind of looked like him on the field at Senior Bowl. It was some of the similar things, except Noel's got more juice. So, I think, a decent totem for him, it would be Shakir with more juice. I think I ended up because I don't like to do it like this guy, but plus or this poor, the only guy I had to with Dylan Gabriel, poor man's too. I couldn't help myself. But yeah, like a juiced up Khalil Shakir or a Christian Kirk, I think is the one that I finally settled on.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. I wrote about him. No profiles best as a slot receiver with an excellent release and quickness into crisp routes. Displays exceptional hands, plucking the ball away from his frame. Sudden burst to pull away from defenders and is smooth in and out of his breaks. Understands how corners are trying to play him and uses it to his advantage to find soft spots in coverage to make the quarterback's life easier. However, he doesn't have much experience against press, won't win with size and coverage. He's not going to break many tackles. Had more focus drops this year than he will need to get stronger to be a factor as a blocker. So pretty much the same stuff. I mean, I like his game. There's room for an improvement, but for the most part, he's going to come in. He's going to be a plus guy. He won't need to be a starter right away for the Bucs unless there's a setback with Godwin, and they'll really allow him to get on the field and get the experience behind the scenes before he's thrust into the action. But 4 wide receiver sets, he can be dangerous and take the top off, spread that field. I like him a lot.
For sure. Yeah, I looked him up. I got him 52 on my board. So yeah, for me, pretty solidly a round 2 guy. But yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I think he would make a lot of sense with the Bucs as well. So yeah, I could definitely see that one.
All right, in the third round, I had the Bucs trading up with the Jacksonville Jaguars giving up that 4th to get up to 70 with a 6. Princely Umanmielen. Talk to me about him. What do you like about him? I think right off the bat he can be a designated pass rusher for the Bucs. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, he's probably going to go a little bit lower than he should because there's questions about like his personality and stuff. But on the field, extremely talented. It's another guy where I'm ranking him. Like I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be ranking him above where he goes. Do you read the Bob McGinn, the Go Long? Do you know that series I'm talking about? Bob McGinn, he's a veteran. He used to be a veteran reporter for the Packers, and then he's now I think he's like semi-retired. But he always did this series where he go position by position, and he's got a deep Rolodex of scouting sources, and so he would spend the spring accruing essentially anonymous scouts takes and quotes and whatnot on different players, and then have them rank out the guys and whatnot. And you get from it, because each guy will have like 6 or 7 different quotes in there. So it's not just like a one-off, and it's not just like a drive-by shooting. And the reason I bring this up, I'm trying to pull it up here, find it, the one about Princely, because his was really interesting. If I can find it. I know this isn't the most fascinating. Okay, here we go. Okay, so one scout, he left Florida for Ole Miss in 2024. I always thought he was a bit of an underachiever, blamed others, all that kind of stuff. I think the league knows who he is. So I think he'll be surprised on draft weekend when he doesn't go until the 3rd day.
Well, that's interesting.
That I would be surprised about. But like just the on-field stuff, it's a second round player, right? I mean, maybe yeah. So that's with prospects, there's some things that are just black boxes for us, obviously, like don't know what the kid's like in the locker room, don't know what that sort of stuff, right? Or what do his coaches think about James Pierce, another guy like this, a little bit different, but like he's just like a different dude. There's another one, I can't say what his name is, but there's a running back in this class who is probably going to go a little bit lower than he oughta, or that the public thinks he is. And it's because he has been really struggling in interviews, the process, and he's not a bad person. And he's a hard worker. It's just, he's like a mute. Like he just doesn't communicate very, like it's not, right. And it is a thing, like there's a reason that teams meet with prospects. And like, if the coaches or the evaluator, they don't get a good feel or vibe from the kid, especially if they know, like last year with Jermaine Burton, like this, you heard from I was getting DMs throughout the spring about Jermaine Burton last year. This kid's a head case, moving down your rankings, like not a fun guy to be around, etc. Some stuff with IJ Bond, maybe with some of that this process, cough. But we don't know, like some of the stuff's reported, some of the stuff, you talk with people about, but like don't really know. All right. Like some of the stuff secondhand, especially something like that, where it's not specific to a thing. They're talking about his personality and the way that he fits in, but physical package, if the head's screwed on straight, right, and that's not an issue, physical package, great. And he's productive, right? He's an NFL starter in terms of that. So for me, he would be a round 2 guy as far as that goes, but the black box part of it, I can't really speak to it.
Yeah. 13.5 tackles for a loss, 10.5 sacks, forced fumble, 16 hits, 28 hurries. He's good. He's a good player. I think early 3rd is probably where I'll end up. That's immaturity stuff. I asked Jason Light about that at his pre-draft presser. I'm like, what about immaturity stuff? Like kind of like this stuff kind of around Walter Nolan, right? Kind of pissed off and walking off practice, is it because they're giving, and he kind of brought it up on his own. He's like, college is different these days because, with the whole NIL and the transfer portal and everything, like they've got to get these freshman kids playing time. I mean, that comes at expense of seniors and juniors and stuff like that. And like, I could see that, like I'm here working my ass off, busting my ass off, trying to get myself drafted, trying to do this. And then because you signed a 5-star freshman defensive tackle to a $1 million NIL deal and the boosters, now I got to give up 33% of my reps to him. Like that would, and he sucks right now. He's going to get his ass beat, but we got to get him in the field so he doesn't transfer in the offseason. Like I can see as a player that would piss me off. I'd be all set sometimes too. But next thing, you got a strong locker room, you can fix that. So, and I think the Bucs do.
For sure. And it's all case specific. It's context specific. And, some of this stuff, it's the art of like the person trying to gauge, during the meeting, this different stuff with the information you get. But there's situations where the coach isn't always right. Like one of them, and this was a public thing. So this isn't like, you had to speak about something or, whatever that, this was seen. And I was watching this thing live when it happened. There was a midweek game in the AAC. I forget, this would have been, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, but it was Ed Oliver was on the Houston team and their head coach was Major Applewhite. And there was a wild scene. I believe this was before halftime, but Major Applewhite and Ed Oliver got into a shouting match on the sideline where then Ed Oliver left the field like before they'd have gotten to the end of the quarter. And I think then he didn't come out for the second half. And, you just watch that and you're like, oh, Ed Oliver, he's a malcontent, or like whatever. Well, when you got more of the story, it turns out what happened was it was some weird thing where on the sidelines, I forget where they were playing, but it was an outdoor stadium and it was like colder. I forget, but it had to do with the long jackets the players will wear on the sideline, like when it's colder. It was like they were designated for, it was like he took one and on the bench when apparently like the rule was it was designated at that moment for it was something so stupid like that. Okay. And Major Applewhite like tried to make an example of him and then literally tried to pull it off of him. And so that's how it started. That's when Oliver got ticked off. Right. And so then he's shouting at him. And it's like, in terms of that, you can actually understand that. Right. So it's like, it depends on, the situation or how pervasive it was. Was it a one-off? What's the what do you know about the kid's character? Like outside of that, how bad was the situation? If it's just a one-off, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, case specific.
Absolutely. We'll jump in. We'll talk about both of these players because they're both in the secondary. In the third round with that Rams pick, I went with Noel Williams out of Cal, and then Jonas Sanker in the fourth with the Bucs pick out of Virginia. What do you like about those guys? I think they both fit what the Bucs look like. They had formals, and Williams came in on a 30 visit. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, Noel Williams was good in college. I just wonder is he athletic enough to stay on the boundary in the NFL? Like, will he get trump carded by anything like that? I think if he does, there's, safety is an option there. And you have precedent, even at his own school, recent past, the guy that I know well, Cam Bynum, right? Very good college cornerback. And he's a very smart guy who's very skilled. There was some lack of foot quickness there for that position in the NFL, where it's like you got to be world class, in terms of that. Turns out he's good safety, right? Guy sees the field well, makes plays on the ball, etc. So you get two bullets there, right? Like I think I used a baseball metaphor before. I will one more time. Minor league one again. When they take the guy early, they always put him at like the hardest positions, like shortstop, right? And there's a concept in baseball of you allow them to fail down the spectrum, right? Like so, you fail at shortstop, no problem. Now you're a second base, failed that. Now you're a trying center field. Okay, third base. It's not, right? Like you fail all the way down to first base is like the last stop on that or whatever. Right. But like, there's a lot of prospects. You only get the one bullet. You can't fail down to anything, right? Because if you fail at that, you're an accountant in a couple years, right? Like, but this kid's got two bullets, right? So you draft him, you start him at corner, and then if it doesn't work out there, this is a viable safety prospect. So that's how I see him. And then the other one, Sanker. I had Sanker, I think a little bit lower than some other folks. Let me see where I got him
114.
114. Yeah.
Morgan Burnett.
I got some different. Like I think the way that I see the corner class, at least the top of it, was fairly similar. At least to some things I seen. The safety one, I was seeing it different than others. And who knows? Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe or maybe we'll end up seeing. But was a little bit lower on Sanker. I like the way he plays and that he's physical. I don't love him as much in coverage, and that's sometimes the way that I'm tilting it, which you can probably tell by me having Xavier Watts over a Manwari. But like the things that I value, love Watts. Watts is the man. I don't understand why people don't talk about Watts more. He's an absolute killer in the pass game. Absolute killer. Like
I feel the same way about Makuba. And
Makuba's very good. Very good in
Samil Mondin too. Like no one's talking about those players.
Yeah. It's really weird. But with Watts, it's wild because what was it, 13 interceptions the last 2 years? Like led the FBS by far. And then you see people being like, oh, he stinks in run defense and, insinuate that he got lucky for those interceptions. No, he didn't. He's always at the catch point. When he's playing center field and he can just come downhill, he triggers before the ball's left the quarterback's hands, straight line path, very quick trigger, and he gets to a lot of catch points. And when he does, it's not safety against receiver like it is with the rest of these guys. It's receiver against receiver. Xavier Watts is a converted wide receiver, and his ball skills are that. Right. And so that's why you see him jump so many passing lanes, get there so often. He's there, way more than a lot of these other different guys, and can make legitimate plays on the ball. So I think he's a killer with that. I also think people lose the context with his run defense. They try to just be like, oh, he's a bad run defender, and even insinuate that he's a finesse player, like center fielder. It's not at all. Like, he runs the alley fearlessly, and he'll throw himself into contact, everything like that. He's got the same quick trigger downhill against the run, but he doesn't get home as often because he takes the straight line path. When the ball leaves the quarterback's hands, you can do that because of the laws of physics, it can't change direction midair. So you know where it's going to end up, right? With the running plays, his pursuit paths do not accommodate for the idea of direction changes. It's always a straight line thing. So when the concept goes the way that, it started out as, he gets there real quick. As long as a blocker doesn't get to him, because he can get wiped out with that, and he will run himself into garbage, because it's always that straight line thing, right? But it's just that it gets him in trouble sometimes in the run game. But he gets there quickly when, again, the concept stays the same, and he's clean to the contact point, and he's a reliable tackler. Like, he brings it to lay the wood, and he wraps up as well. One other cool thing about it, again, you lose the context, and you just, he's bad in run defense, and there's nothing else discussed with it. The one other thing, he uses his arms at the tackle point. And so you either see he wraps, but he does one other cool thing that you don't see a lot of the defenders in this class doing. He did it way more than most. He does the rake thing when he can, right? Like, when it's available to him, when the circumstance calls for it, he will attempt to rake the ball out, and you get more turnovers because of that. Right. So it's a guy who's very clever. The aggression's there. He sees the field well. Production speaks for itself. And no, folks, it wasn't luck over 1,600 snaps over 2 years. That's for real.
No, I love his game a lot too. And I just don't think the Bucs have a shot of him in the second round. He's gonna be long gone before then. But another guy I like a lot here, Josh Capo, put me onto him a while back. Teddy Buchanan out of Cal. He doesn't have crazy athleticism, but this guy, former quarterback, he knows the position. He's there. Like, he studies his ass off. He's got those natural instincts because he's seen it all, and he's in that gap before sometimes the tackle can't even get there.
Yeah, it's like, why does he get slept on so much? Because he was so productive, and the measurables are there and stuff. And yeah, does he profile as a superstar? No. But, like, he gets crazy slept on. We were talking about the PFF mock simulator. We do one for the Viking show I'm on, and there's been so many 7th rounds where it's like, all right, bring up Teddy. It's like, why is he? Yeah. I'm not saying he's going to be a superstar, but, like, that guy's hanging around for a long time, and has a decent shot to turn into an off-ball starter. It's just a very well-rounded game, right? Like, nothing crazy sexy, but in every phase, pretty good. Sees the field well, reliable. He has the experience. Yeah, playmaker. Like, he's around the ball quite a bit. So
8 career interceptions.
Yeah. Like, I don't
short arms too. It's like he's got a massive wingspan. His arms are like 32 inches long. So, like, he's in the right spot.
The linebacker class, another, like I mentioned with the safeties, where I just see it differently and so it's like, I guess the consensus or whatever, but, like, another guy that I like a lot more than other is Cody Lindenberg. And Cody Lindenberg, the Minnesota linebacker, he got nicked up to the last 3 years, but if he'd been healthy all them years, he would be getting talked about differently. Very good athlete. He is in a big frame, and it's a guy who had the green dot at Minnesota for like 3 years. Calling the plays. There's not a ton of linebackers in this class who at the power 4 level had the green dot for a couple of years. It's not something we talk about a lot, like with the draft evaluations, but that's a very, very smart player. And PJ Fleck says he's the best linebacker he's ever coached. So, like, the coaches fawn over him. He's a team leader kind of a guy. But yeah, Teddy's another example where, like, I don't understand why. With Lindenberg, I understand a little bit more because there was the 2 of the last 3 seasons where, he wasn't able to play as many snaps because of nagging injuries. But yeah, with Teddy, I don't really understand. Not going to be a superstar, but he's hanging around for a while. And I think his team's going to get value on his draft slot.
Automatically a core special teamer too. Automatically.
For sure.
Next guy I got here is Holland Pierce, the tackle from Rutgers. Bucs have a need for a swing tackle. They brought in Charlie Heck to replace Justin School, who went to your Vikings. Have fun with him. If you guys don't start calling him Justin School, if you don't get that movement started, Thor, we're fighting.
Okay. Yeah.
But
Done.
He's got some work to do. But as a developmental swing tackle, I mean, half of his starts came on the right side, the other half came on the left side, and he's got massive size. He's just got to fix his pad level, which is something he's always going to struggle with, being that size. But there's some traits to develop there to be a valuable backup tackle, swing tackle in the league for a very long time. In my opinion, what are your thoughts on him?
For sure. Yeah. And, is he a top tier tackle? No, for the reasons that you're stating, right? Like the leverage thing. And then he's not like the craziest athlete, but you love the frame. You love the length. He knows how to play with depth. Yeah. The length for days, right? Like it's like a moat, like around a castle.
80-inch wingspan.
Yeah. Like to get past it, dude, you got to get there pretty quick, right? You got 3 seconds, right? Generally on a passing concept. Well, to get around that, because he gets to appropriate depth. He's not the fast-footed guy in the world. He's got, a little bit of cement feet, but it is difficult. He gets to the correct depth with that length and power. He totally throws water over it, right? Like it's like he's a fire truck for strength. So you're not going to beat him with the bull rush there. And then coming forward, of course, he's a load. I think it's a right tackle in the NFL. Kind of a thing that seems, like that's where we're headed with it.
You can play left tackle in a pinch if you need him, but more of a right tackle.
Yeah. A hammer type right tackle. And, again, like after the sure thing offensive tackles, that's where I would be targeting that guy. For me, that's a great middle round pick for a team that needs a tackle, but they just missed out initially, or they have the two guys like, for instance, just one example of this, the Rams, you bring back Alaric Jackson at left tackle, but Havenstein at right tackle, he's just D's, right? He's just mid, but also he's on last year of his contract. And so like in a situation like that, in that case, you draft Pierce, and then it's like we're going to develop him to take over Havenstein's job in 2026.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I like that. I mean, he's so massive, man. I think he'll be a good player, and I like the value there too in the 6th round. Then I finished out this mock with Jalen Smith, the nickel corner from USC. They brought him in for a top 30 visit. Had a formal with him. He's not a ball hawk. He's not really, great in run support. He did get better, but he's sticky in man coverage out of the slot. And reads the quarterback well, especially in zone coverage. What were your thoughts on Jalen Smith?
Yeah, there's some physical limitations there, but he does have the quick feet, right? Like to your point about that. And so as a nickel guy, is his athletic profile nullifying? I don't think so. Out of the nickel, will he be good enough to be one of the top 30 of them in the NFL? I think that's the question. We're ultimately going to see with him, but. As a guy projects as a backup nickel guy in the NFL, that's where how I sort of see him.
It's you compared him to Enos Rakestraw, which is interesting because he was a 2nd round pick last year.
Yeah, I mean it's that sort of player type. That would be the bonanza outcome, right? Like and right. Yes. I typically like going, because with every guy, it's really not one comp I have, it's really 3. It's like bonanza outcome, middle tier outcome, the low end or the bust outcome. What would that look like? And I generally try to give the mid tier one, but that was definitely, there are similarities there, right? They both play very hard. The frames are similar, the athleticism is similar, different stuff like that. But the lacking the high end speed and the measurables. But the feisty sort of a dude.
Yeah. I like him. I think, again, you bring him in, develop behind the scene. If maybe he makes a roster and he's, a special teamer and a backup nickel, maybe he's on the practice squad for a year. I think that makes a lot of sense. While I pull up the PFN, we'll run through it real quick. We got a couple questions in here. Is Amon Awori the next Obi Melifonwu? And then your thoughts on Chris Ball Jr. Is he 2nd, 3rd? I think he's probably going to go 3rd, maybe even 4th round from things that I've been seeing. What are your thoughts on those guys?
Amon Awori, I think he's a little bit overrated. Like, it's like, I see him, it's like we were talking about with Watts killer in the pass game. And decent in the run game. I'll say mid, right? Like he's not as bad as people say he is, but he's not great. Whereas Umanmielen is destructive in the run game, and like he gets way too much credit in coverage. You have to hide him, and you get some flash plays out of it, but you can't trust Umanmielen with his back to the quarterback. So you can only play him at nickel if it's just a drop zone or whatever. And then you can't trust him in center field. His instincts aren't good enough in the pass game. And also you'd be taking him away from the ball. That's what his special sauce is. So he's essentially like, he's like a linebacker from like 2060 sent back in the future. He's like, Umanmielen exists on like this line of continuum where linebacker is here and safety's here. He is right in the middle, right? He was a linebacker at Columbia High. He stayed home for college and he plays safety like he played linebacker. Yeah. I mean, it's a hitman, dude. It's sideline to sideline. Like in run defense, don't get me wrong. He is an amazing run defender. He's going to be the best run defender on the team he's on. So like, if that's what you're looking for, great. I just think people get it twisted with him because they see the flash plays in coverage and they assume he's good in coverage, right? Like last year he had 4 interceptions. He had 2 of them were pick sixes. And there's times when he gets to the catch point, he looks like a tight end flipping the field, like a crazy athletic, sort of move tight end. Cause he's got decent ball skills. He's got very long arms. Right. And then, a big guy. And, obviously when he gets the ball, it's really quick the other way. And that's where you see the north-south locomotive. But there's a reason this kid didn't do the agilities in the pre-draft process. This is a north-south athlete. Now, crazy explosive. Right. But again, you don't want him in man coverage and nickel. He's going to get destroyed. You don't want to put him deep. So it's like you have to have him as that sort of quasi box guy in a drop zone. He's gotten better with it. In terms there was a couple of times I saw him carry guys to the edge of the zone, come back up. It was like, oh, he's starting to do it. Because like previous to that, you really had to hide him in coverage. Like he just was not. The feel of it just wasn't there. He's getting better with the feel. I will say that for him. But again, you're talking about a guy who's going to be occupying his zone in the intermediate. You will get some flash plays. The quarterback F's up. I don't know if it'll be as many as in the NFL as it was in college, because you sort of have to telegraph it for him. But he's got all the skills at that point, right? If he's there. But yeah, the instincts on it and some of that stuff. And then the side to side, not nearly as good as north south. So that's what I think about Umanmielen.
Yeah, I'm not super high on him. I know Mel Kiper put him to the Bucs. I'd rather they take Starks or rather they wait or move back and pick up Watts or Kevin Winston Jr. or somebody else. All right, I started the mock. We are on the board right now at 19. We got Walter Nolan available, Malachi Starks available, Donovan Ezrau, and I'll throw a wild card at you with Mika Egbuka. So those are your 4 options to choose from. You can break them down. You can break the one down that you want. Go through them. But Nolan, Starks, Ezrau, Egbuka, what are your thoughts there?
Can we look at the trade options real quick before we make that call? I just want to see what's available to us. We were talking about like the trade down possibility with the Bucs. Like, let's just see what the scenario would be. There are good options there, of course. We talked about Ezrau before. Big fan of Walter Nolan as well. Talked about that. But let's see what's available.
What can we get? The Chargers, the Rams, the Eagles, the Browns. I don't think they go any further than that.
Say the last couple again.
Chargers at 22, Rams at 26, Eagles at 32, and Browns at 33.
Show me the edge rushers available one more time. I want to see if we can do the gambit with the Browns.
Show them the edge rushers, Johnny. Ezrau, Pierce Jr., who I don't think will be on their board. Scourin they had for a top 30 visit. I don't think they're looking at Shamar Stewart. Jackson and Swinson are people they had interviews with at the combine.
Man, we kind of leaning Ezrau here. With that stuff being said, like,
you want to see the corners?
Yeah, let's see them. Yeah,
pretty much everybody but Will Johnson and Barron are still on the board.
Yeah, I think I would be leaning Ezrau, 17th on my board, edge 3. That's who I would be leaning towards here. It could trade down, but Ezrau
risk it
above the others.
22, you'd be risking 3 spots. And who's behind them? The Steelers, the Broncos. So it'd be the Steelers, the Broncos, and the Chargers. You'd have to outlast to move back. Few spots.
Well,
probably pick
okay,
up.
let's just do it with the Chargers and see what they would give us for the 3 spots.
86 potentially. Definitely 125 in a second, in a sixth. So you could definitely get a 4th and a 6th, or you get a 1st and a 3.
So with 86, and then can we toss in one other one?
And try to squeeze 6 under 209.
Okay. Yeah, I'm down.
Tom Brady. Tom Brady. Let's see.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see. I like the day 2 picks in this class, because what we were talking about before. Oh no!
He goes to the Broncos. Out of all teams, that you didn't think the Broncos would take him.
No,
but he goes there.
Is Hampton Omarion Hampton? Because I have it on authority that pretty sure that ain't gonna happen. Broncos are gonna take Hampton if he's there. So right. But I think Walter Nolan. Yeah,
I'll give you Nolan. I'll give you Starks. I'll give you Amos and Scouredon.
I'm gonna go with Nolan. I'm a big fan of Nolan. Yeah. And again, he can improve your pass rush, right? Like we'll see where the edge rusher position is. You come up here, now we got some more picks, but Nolan's going to help, both. It's an immediate penetration interior disruptor guy. Knock off Aaron Donald. He says he's he comps himself to Aaron Donald. It's like a discount rack, Aaron Donald.
Right, and you put him and Clyde can't see next to each other, or you put all 3 of them with Vita Vea on the inside and those 2 rounding out of them. Yeah, it's a difficult situation.
Yes.
All right, so I'll give you Kevin Winston Jr. here, Benjamin Morrison. Let's see. What do we have for edges? Let's go Jaden Higgins, Demetrius Knight. Unless there's someone else you want to look at. But those 4.
I'm going to go.
I'll throw Femi in there too.
Who?
I'll throw Femi in there too.
Yeah.
So Femi, Knight, Morrison, Winston, Higgins.
So I have Higgins above Morrison by a little bit, but do you think the Bucs would take a boundary receiver that soon?
They met with them at the combine, and they had Elick Ayomanor in for a 30 visit. So I'm not sure. They met with some outside guys at the combine too. I love Jaden Higgins.
I love Jaden Higgins. Let's take Jaden Higgins. I
love Jaden Higgins.
Yeah, like he's another guy that gets. I don't understand why he doesn't get talked about more, especially in this crappy receiver class. Right, but a hair over 6'4", well-built receiver too. He drops nothing. He has this big catch radius, and literally anything, even close, like in the Fisher's not. He coming down with it, right? It was I believe it was a 3% career drop rate, but which is wildly impressive in a vacuum for the boundary receiver, especially catching the ball down the field like he does. But I think it was the last 3 years, each of them, it was 2.2% or less. Like it was only at 3% that high because of his like true freshman season at whatever Eastern Kentucky or whatever. But is Higgins the most sudden side to side? No, but you can give him a route tree with stuff that he's good at, and we know he's going to be good at it. He can get downtown, he can across the field, the slants and different stuff like that, and then you can get him the ball underneath. Like you just get him going north south wherever direction that is. Lead him in space, hit him on the hands. Like that's what the game is with Jaden. He ain't going to drop nothing.
Yeah. All right. So we're back here. We have 84, then the Broncos, and then 86. So we've got 2 in the next 3. Kevin Winston Jr., Chris Paul Jr. They went off the board right before our picks. Femi Oladejo's there. Andrew Makuba's there. Moving down. the board. I mean, you could reach for Dorian Strong or Jacob Parrish. At this point, if you need cornerback help at linebacker, you're pretty much screwed right now until maybe the 4th round, unless you want to take Jeffrey Bassa early. What are you thinking?
No.
We have yet to take the 3 top needs. We have yet to take one.
Oh,
but
yeah.
The board fell the way the board falls.
The board, yeah. And I'm not as big of a fan of Femi. I think can we do a little trade down here?
Let's see. We are back on the clock here. We can go all the way to 100 if we want.
I'd like to
go back to 87. So we'd be picking 86 and 87.
Okay, yeah. See with Green Bay, you go 124.
I don't think we need anything this year, but maybe I can squeeze like a 5th round out or 4th round.
Well, I was gonna say we move up more in like a pick swap, 2 for 2. You know what I mean? Like
move up.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe we
like
can
a situation
do that.
like that. Like, you know, because if we can get 124, right? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Because then you're up there early 4th. All right.
It seems it seems a little unrealistic because it's just 3 spots, but hey, let's do it.
They said 100% accepted though. Yeah.
So Jared Wilson's the only one, and Savion Williams, 2 guys, so I don't think they'd be interested in it.
So what buckets here?
For me, I still like Femi here. I like Makuba here. I like Tate Ratledge here. Moving down if they're going to maybe reach for a player or take a player here a little earlier. Dorian Strong, Jacob Parrish, Jeffrey Bassa are guys that I like. Noel Williams is a guy.
All right, maybe we go Femi, just with the because after I said you got to improve your pass rush, and then now we're bypassing with the way the board falls. He's not my favorite dude in the class, but you have the measurables there, and he's on the young side too, right? Like
20, 21, 20.
Yeah, 21. Yeah, and he's not going to be 22 for a little bit. And then, some of these other guys in the class, David Walker, 24, Jordan Birch, 23. We got a bunch of 23s. Jared Ivey, Tyler Barron, right. Elijah Roberts. Yeah, so, I mean, I try to think about that with guys, too. It's like, in 2 years, what would they look like? And then, doing that kind of a thing because you're comparing the 21-year-old, 23-year-old, 24-year-old. So maybe I'm being a little bit tough on Femi, but yeah, let's take him.
All right. I think we look here, corner, linebacker, safety. Makuba's the best of their remaining needs available, in my opinion. At safety, I like Ransom, but I like Makuba a lot more.
Let's do Makuba.
As a playmaker. Okay.
Yeah, let's do Makuba. Makuba is really good in coverage. Yeah, and he's another one of those guys where the pre-draft testing, the in-game athleticism is way better. And the athleticism that my eye saw was closer to the in-game athleticism. So it's like I think his game and coverage is going to keep playing. He's very, very skilled.
All right, we'll bring up corner and linebacker here. Barrett Carter's available. I'm not a big fan of Jack Kaiser. Quincy Riley, I don't know why he on PFF he's way down here. But if you're looking for
I'm a fan of Quincy Riley. Yeah, like it's not going to help us with the formula, but that's care, really. Oh, and we're at 124, so maybe we could use the next one on him.
We got 121 and 124. So
remind me the positions we've already hit.
Okay, so we've taken Walter Nolan, then we went Jaden Higgins, Femi Oladejo, and Andrew Makuba. So they would need a linebacker and a corner, whether it's inside or out or double up, and then the other two kind of whatever.
Yeah, let's toss those positions up and see what we got. Those buckets.
So we got Williams, Dotson, I like Zay Alexander. I do like Quincy Riley. Linebacker, Carter, Kaiser. Buchanan's going to be down here, even though he won't go there.
You're my
Nick
boy
Martin,
Cody too. Yeah.
Samir Mondin is way down here too.
Yeah, and Stutzman as well. I rank higher than,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah. So, maybe you know we already talked about Noel, Noel Williams. Maybe we take him here.
Okay.
You know, we get those two bullets.
Take the bullets. Tootin goes off the board. Will Howard goes off the board. We're back up on the clock. A lot of position players right now.
So let's see. I think do we need interior defensive line, another one with Nolan, or you think we're crossed out there?
I think they'd be good there, although the value's there. I think, you know, for the best remaining linebacker right now would be Barrett Carter, Logan Brown, if they wanted a tackle type to develop.
I like Logan Brown, you know, and there's some position versatility there. Maybe we go with Logan Brown here, guy you can develop, and then we could hit the linebacker next one
with the Tom Brady pick.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we got our developmental offensive tackle. We end up getting our corner, safety, and edge. Now we'll tackle linebacker as it comes to us here. See what's available. Ty Robinson's not going to be here in 6. Samil Mondin Jr. is here. He won't be here.
Yeah, I think we have to, right? Yeah, let's pop Smale.
All right, let's go. There is a chance he could slide just because of injury history. Like, it's expensive.
Yeah.
All right, last pick. We can go any which way. We've attacked all of our needs. We went linebacker. We took the following: Samil Mondin Jr., Logan Brown with the developmental offensive lineman, wide receiver, edge, safety, cornerback. Best player available is Ty Robinson by far.
Yeah.
They hit the outside receiver if they wanted an inside receiver. I like Kanata Mumfield a lot.
He gets open, Kanata Mumfield. Like it's kind of crazy. Like I mean, he's nothing to look at, and his measurables aren't good. But yeah, he is a very good route runner. Always has been. Like he stood out to me initially because he began at Akron. And like it was like, who's that kid? And then his separation percentile metrics were always absurd for PFF. It was too bad he didn't do more at Pitt last couple of years, but the year before they had a super shitty passing offense. Last year it was better, but they had a lot of mouths to feed as well. You know, in the system, it sort of sprays the ball around. But yeah, he gets open, that kid.
I like Zoff Frazier too out of UTSA.
I'm a fan of Drew Kendall. I think Drew Kendall gets criminally slept on, especially in a shitty center class, right? Like Jared Wilson's clearly the best when it's, you know, if unless you consider Zabel, but like of the pure centers. And then to me, Kendall is pretty clearly 2, and it drops off really quick. Like, I don't know why other people don't like him more. You know, like his father played in the NFL for over a decade after he was a first-round pick. He'd been a Boston College starting center. And Drew was very good the last 2 years, and he has the measurable. And the arm length is, of course, on the shorter side, but no more so than most of the centers in this class. So I don't understand. He's got the frame. For me, it'd probably be either him or Ty Robinson. You know, I know we already hit that position, but, you know, Ty Robinson, he could go in round 3. So
what are your thoughts on Frazier?
He is a fun ball of clay. I would shoot a shot. Hold on, let me pull up where I am. His measurables and last year he was pretty solid.
I think he came in for a 30 visit too.
Yeah, I mean he's you know, sort of, you know, shoot the moon kind of a guy, but like late
6'6" last year. Jeez.
Yeah. Like his measurables are nuts. So yeah, I mean that's a guy that I'd want to take a flyer on. So I mean, absolutely. Not many human beings that big that you know have that kind of athletic profile. So you know, and again on the field, he wasn't a bum last year. He was pretty good. So I'd shoot the shot.
All right, let's go. Let's double up on cornerback. That way they have 3 bullets there.
Yeah,
with Noel and Za. And they have showed some interest in him. I'm hoping they get Za and Ja, and they're, you know,
tremendous.
Scott Frazier, Josh Joyner. Let's make it happen. Come on, Jason Light.
Yeah,
We want the John Josh show.
Yeah, grab Jaws from my neck of the woods. So yeah, and he can move. So yeah, I mean that could make sense. But with
it's looking good. It's looking real good so far, my man.
Wow. Okay. Oh, baby.
A+ for Walter Nolan. A for Jaden Higgins. A for Femi Aladejo. A+ for Makuba. A for Noah Williams. I'm gonna get a D for Logan Brown. A C+ for Smeal Mondin.
That's crazy. The ones at the end. Those are great values. Yeah, they're gonna go ahead.
Hey, what are you doing, buddy? I'm in the middle of a show.
Mike Campbell, he'll stay outside the door and just meow the whole time. So lucky people can't hear him.
Not a bad mock. I see.
Pretty good.
Platinum Man came in late. Sorry, I've been going back and forth. I said, how did I miss this? Who do we pick so far? No cornerback is crazy. We doubled up supply and demand, and we got a linebacker. A steal in the 6th round at 199. Tom Brady. Can he be a Pro Bowler, All-Pro? Certainly got the skill set if he can stay healthy. And again, the Bucs really like Servante Dennis, guys. I am not just saying that. They really like him. And, you know, I think if it's meant to be, they're not going to reach for one. You know, there's concerns with all these guys that we like. The CP3s, Chris Paul Jr., the Demetrius Knight Juniors, the Carson Schweschlinger, 1 year production at UCLA, the Jeffrey Bossas. Like, there's question marks everywhere in this position in linebacker. Be prepared to see some go lower than you thought. You're going to be looking on day 4 or round 4, day 3, and be like, why are these guys still here at linebacker? Why is Demetrius Knight? Why is Chris Paul still available? Not saying they're definitely going to be there, but there's a chance that both of them can be there, and it shouldn't be a shock now because I've told you. So it's just, there's not a lot of love for this linebacking class, and there's either short arms or old age. you know?
That's what it is. Yeah, and if they're not a hybrid player, those are the guys the NFL has got eyes for. The more traditional ones, it's you getting pushed down, but you can get value there, right? I mean, those guys, it's a starting position in the NFL still. So.
Right, exactly. Well, I want to appreciate you so much. Before you get out of here, you had one thing I had to ask you about. So I'm reading the Thor 500, which you guys ought to check out. I'll let him promote it here in a minute. But it's got comps for every player, and I come to Shedeur Sanders comp, and who do I see but number 6, Baker Mayfield? How did you come to that comp? Is it the attitude? Is it the swagger, or do you see a lot of similarities in their play too?
Yeah, I mean, it's similar frames. It's guys that stay in the pocket, but they can make people miss there. I like that Shedeur uses athleticism that way. That reminded me of Baker as well. And then the accuracy and the placement's so good with Shedeur, and like trying to get, again, like who was the guy earlier, that I comped to Rakestraw, where it's, I was talking about like the mid-tier comp against the high one. My Bonanza comp was fairly scandalous. That's Drew Brees. Like I think if he, like everything hits, but more towards a mid-tier, I think his career would look a lot like Baker Mayfield. And it's not perfect. It's not 1-to-1. But it wasn't about personality. I happen to I love Baker. Even in college I did. And Baker, like he got into a spat with my undergrad, when Oklahoma played at Kansas, and then the team captains wouldn't shake his hand before, and so he made a point to just burn the city to the ground that day. It's like threw for 1,000,000 yards, but no, like it's not about it's the game stuff. But Baker's got a little bit more velocity, and I think Shedeur's accuracy placement's a little bit better. So again, it's not 1-to-1, but I thought that was probably a more accurate representation for the reader than some of the other ones I could have gone with.
Yeah. It was interesting to see just one of the thought process behind it. Let me just address Anthony Christie too before I let you promo and get out of here. Anthony says, you lost me with your 2nd round pick, a slot receiver. That ain't gonna happen. First, as Bry corrects you there, Higgins is not a slot receiver. He's an outside receiver. He's got some versatility. He can play a little bit in the slot, but mostly an outside receiver. It's gonna really hurt your feelings to know that they've brought in several slot receivers that could go in the 1st or 2nd day. They met with several of them. And brace yourself now, because if you guys know me and know what I bring to the table, I appreciate it. If you don't, let other people know. But they could take a wide receiver round 1. That is not off the table, especially with some of the news surrounding Jihad. It bumps up one of those players, a Matthew Golden, a Emeka Ugbuka, up their board a little bit if he's falling down. And if those are the players that are there and they can't find a trade back, there's a realistic shot that they could come away with 1 or 2 of those wide receivers as early as the first round. They're definitely looking second, third round. Be careful too. I'm telling you guys, wide receivers in play, defensive tackles in play in the first round, cornerback is in play, even early. Guys like Harrison, who they just brought in for a 30 visit. Don't be surprised if they pull the trigger there. They like some of his intangibles and what he brings to the table. Smaller profile, but don't be shocked. Again, as Thor just said, and I said earlier today, 15. Cut the line at 15, and anything you're getting from there to early 70s and then the third round is pick your poison. It's going to be a lot of guys who you think are going to go here that are going there, and a lot of guys who you think are going to go here that are going to go there. We have no idea right now. We have some bits and pieces, but until the draft community gets together and just shares all their sources openly together to put out one mega mock that they're hearing from teams, we're not going to know. And that's the crazy thing about this draft, particularly because there's so few of those guys that it opens up the board. And that's not just from me. It's not just from Thor. That's from Jason Light. So keep that in mind. Brace yourself for what could happen. Gray's able. They just re-signed Ben Bredesen, but his contract looks a hell of a lot better than some of the other guards and tackles who got paid this free agency. And for a versatile guard center type on $7 million, if Gray's Abel's the best on their board, they can't move back and they take him and he beats them out of camp, it's not too bad of a price to pay for a backup that you can get out of in 2 years. $14 million isn't a bad backup investment for 3 positions. Break that down and it translates. But that's all I'm saying, guys. Brace yourself. Thor, appreciate you so much. You gave me so much time, more than I thought I was going to get. So I appreciate that. Your knowledge is off the chains. As one of our commenters, Anthony, who's confused about wide receiver, he said, excellent guest. Your knowledge is off the charts. I appreciate you. Everyone, go check out the Thor 500. Thor, promote yourself with it. Where can they find you? What are you working on next before the draft?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at ThorKU. And Fantasy Life is where all my stuff is, and you can find the 500 board there. And we got it like an assortable table, all that sort of stuff we're talking about by position, different stuff like that. And then next couple of days, they're dropping my position rankings, which actually go a little bit deeper than the 500. I ended up ranking out 750 guys, but I even have some more comps in there of guys that didn't make my 500 board, like at the top. But labor of love. But yeah, check that out on Fantasy Life. It's printable. People at your draft parties crossing names off, and it's deep enough. So the top Bucs UDFA, the top of their class for sure. I will have comps on those guys. They'll be on the 500 board. So it's a good resource as well. Next Saturday night for the UDFA process, which I'm a connoisseur of the UDFA process. Like I call it the dessert draft. I just love when we get after the draft and they're flying in all these different signings or guys every year.
I'll do position breakdowns for each one. I'll do the offense and the defense. I'll be like, I'll go in and find either the tape or someone scouting because it's so hard to find some of the guys. So I just take whatever I can get and I'll put a whole little article together about each one and their strengths, their weaknesses, their stats, and everything. Any cool things I can find about them. I love it too. This whole month, it's almost over, man. We've got 5 days left or 6 days left. And then,
1 week from right now, we're going to get Bell open on, I suppose at this point we'll be an hour and a half into
round 2.
In round 2. So we are definitely getting there, but it was good to join you, man. Good to talk about these prospects.
Absolutely. Appreciate it very much. All right. That's going to do it for us here at Pirate Parlay Podcast. Definitely like, subscribe, turn notifications. I appreciate it. Go follow Thor for sure. Appreciate him for his time. That's going to do it for us here on Pirate Parlay Podcast. We'll be back Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The draft's on Thursday. You'll get some live content me from One Buck Place. Till then, I'll see you guys later. Peace out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Pirate Parlay on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.